Hi there, welcome to 90% Knitting. This is episode 371. I'm Lisa, also known as Fiber Nymph, and today is Wednesday, July 28th, I think. It's been a few weeks since I recorded, and that's because my husband and I did get to go on our vacation. If you watched last episode, you might remember I talked about the fact that we were planning our vacation, a canoe trip up in Michigan, but we were not 100% sure that we were actually going to be able to go. And I think shortly after I recorded last time, Bill was able to figure out, get whatever he was doing with work that was going to possibly hold us up from going. It worked out that we could go. So we had a little under 2 weeks to make all of the rest of the actual solid plans, like reservations for campsites and arranging for a car spot shuttle for the end of the river and things like that. But it all worked out. The trip was wonderful. We spent 7 days paddling 120 miles of the Ausable River in Michigan, which is from Grayling, Michigan, out to Oscoda and empties out into Lake Huron. And it was a lot of fun. We had really good weather. It was a little chilly actually a couple of days, but overall it was lovely weather. We had 1 day of rain, which was our next to the last day on the river, and it wasn't heavy rain, so it wasn't bad, but it was also one of our shorter paddling days. So we just spent the rest of the day at our campsite, like hanging stuff up to dry, and then as soon as we'd feel the rain starting to come, we'd take it all down, throw it under the tarp, and then get in the tent, wait out the rain, get out, do it again. But it was fine. Really relaxing, very restorative, and that was what I needed. So I'm glad we got to go, and I'll talk more about the trip towards the end of the podcast, but we did get to go. Just wanted to let you know that, and that's why I haven't recorded before now. So anyway, I have some pictures I'll share too at the end of the podcast. I wanted to let you know just up front that, and again, I'll talk about this more in shop news. I had originally planned to do a shop update this coming Saturday, the 31st. However, I have to push that back. I was a little overly optimistic before I left on vacation. I don't think I announced this on the podcast last time. I think I probably put this only in the newsletter maybe that went out. So if you get my newsletters, you would have read that. But yeah, I can't get it together for an update this weekend. So the summer colorways update will be next Saturday, which is August 7th, I believe, at 10 a.m. However, I'm working on doing inventory this week, and so I'm going to be doing a grab bag update on Friday, this Friday, which is the 30th at 5 p.m. Eastern. So again, I'll talk about a little bit more about that later, but I did want to just alert you to that change of plans up front in case you got the newsletter and you saw that there was going to be an update this week. Need to push it back a week. Anyway, and also I'm sitting in front of my garden. There's our sunflowers. There's a really big, pretty yellow sunflower on the other side though, but I couldn't sit over there. So yeah, sunflowers and some of our border flowers, and everything is just, I got home from vacation and came down here and it's like everything went poof. The plants are huge. Still haven't really gotten anything other than lettuce, although we've got peas, tons of peas on our pea vines. They should be coming along in the next week or so, and tons of cherry tomatoes. So I think all of our volunteer tomato plants ended up being cherry tomato plants. They're all green. So of course, once they start to ripen, I'll have, thousands of cherry tomatoes at once, but it's okay. I'll take it. So anyway, I did also take some garden pictures the other day, so I will try to put those in at the end of the podcast as well. And even though we are way down in my backyard, undoubtedly you will be able to hear ambient road noise. It's just the nature of the beast here where I live, because there's a lot of big trucks that go by during the day right now because of a project going on down the road. Anyway, but it was too nice a day to be inside, even though Bill did go into the office today, so I could have recorded out in the porch room. But again, I just wanted to be outside because it's beautiful. And you might get more bird chirping. I can hear the birds. I don't know how strongly you'll be able to hear them, but nobody seemed to mind the chirping birds last time when I recorded. So anyway, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what I've worked on, which I will tell you has not been much. Now, having said that we did get to go away on vacation, that meant like an 8-hour plus ride on the way up to Michigan and then on the way back. I did knit and crochet a lot on the way up. I did not touch any projects on the way home. I sat in the car and didn't knit, didn't crochet, did nothing. I read, because we had taken a book along with us to read out loud to each other. We like to do that on vacation. And so I actually finished reading the book to Bill while we were driving home. It was The Bears of Brooks Falls by Michael Fitz. Excellent book. Highly recommend. I'll link it in the show notes. Anyway, yeah, and I had taken a sock project with me on the trip that I had cast on before I left, and then promptly ripped out the one day that I pulled it out to work on it. It was like the first day we were on the river. We got to camp and set up and had time to just sit in my hammock and looked at it, and I thought, oh, you know what? I'd really like to do a pattern in this ribbon. I was just going to do like a 2x1 rib for the whole sock. And I thought, you know what? I want to do some patterning. And so I ripped it out because I didn't have enough stitches. I needed 64 instead of 60. And so I ripped it out, cast it on again, did 64 stitches, and then I started into it and I started doing the pattern. And I'm like, this isn't working right. It was a cable thing that I wanted to try to do. And it turned out that 64 stitches wasn't going to work either. I would have had to have done 68. Yeah, because it was like an 8-stitch. I realized it was an 8-stitch cable, not a 4-stitch cable. And that would have just been really a tight cable for a sock. So anyway, I ripped it out altogether, and then I never touched it again on the entire trip. And I did take along with me just some other random yarn that I thought I might play with for a pattern idea I have. Didn't touch that either. So pretty much no crafting happened on the trip. But I was tired. It was a lot of paddling and a lot of physical effort going into the trip, which was fine. I loved it. But I was tired and I just didn't want to. And so I just enjoyed the doing nothing, like when we weren't setting up camp or weren't cooking or weren't whatevering. Like, we just sat around and it was so nice. So I'm not complaining about that, but I don't have that project to show you. But the other things that I did take with me that I worked on in the car is one of them's a new cast on that I did cast on specifically to take with me. If you did the Zoom with me right before I went away, you would have seen this because I had started working on it. The self-care summer Zoom, which I do have another one scheduled. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But anyway, this is the Arika cowl, A-R-I-K-A, by Jane Richmond. And it starts out, it's just this long strip of 2x2 rib. And then you start doing this eyelet section, this eyelet rib kind of deal. And the whole point of it, I'll try to put a finished picture from the pattern up here for you to see. It's really cool, and it has lots of long fringe on it, which you know me and fringe. I love fringe. However, like I did it according to the pattern, you know, the dimensions, and I cast it off. Like, I bound off at one point. And I thought, this isn't going to be big enough. And whenever I kind of scooped it around, because then you attach it like this, so it will be like that, and this part goes around the back of your neck, and then this part hangs down. And obviously it has to be blocked, but it's just not big enough. So after I bound it off and realized it wasn't going to be big enough, I picked the bind off out and I knit a little bit more. But at that point, I felt like I needed to be somewhere where I could lay it out flat and really kind of pin it out and see if it was going to be large enough. The pattern calls for a bulky yarn, but it's weird because the bulky yarn that the pattern calls for was like 191 yards per 100 grams. And to me, that's not a bulky. That is more of an Aran weight. And this yarn that I'm using is Knitter's Brewing Company, Brewski. I think she considers this her worsted. but it has 191 yards per 100 grams. And so I thought, well, this should work. And this is the Woolly Friends colorway that was their pigskin party exclusive last year. So, yeah, I don't know. And I did have to go down a needle size too. I'm on US 9s for this, and I can't remember what the pattern called for. I never printed the pattern out. I was just reading it off of my phone. So that's why I can't refer to it. But anyway, it's not finished. I thought I might finish it once I got home, but honestly, I have just not had a lot of crafting mojo. My knitting ennui is continuing. I'm not bothered by it, but it doesn't make for exciting viewing for you, I guess, because I don't have a lot to show. Anyway, I'm optimistic that this will work out, that I'll be able to make this work out, and I think it'll be fine. I just need to get the sizing right, so hopefully the next time I record I'll have it done and I can show it to you. It was a fun thing to knit. It was very mindless and enjoyable, and my ball sort of fell apart into 2 pieces. That was the other thing. The pattern only called for using 1 ball of yarn, but it's got all that long fringe, and I know I'm not going to be able to get it out of 1 ball. I do have 2 skeins of this yarn though, so I'll be okay. But yeah, the pattern was a little confusing in that front, and I didn't really look at other projects to see what other people used or did with it, so whatever, it'll be fine. But that was the one project that I did work on a lot in the car. And then the other one that I worked on was, I took this, which is crazy that I took a beading project in the car, but it worked out okay, is this tube cowl that I've been crocheting. So here's where I am. I've made quite a bit of progress. I don't remember exactly where it was the last time you saw it. Did I put a marker in? I guess I did not. I thought I did. Anyway, it's funny because here's how wide it was when I started, and look, it's just getting narrower and narrower. I'm not losing stitches, I've checked, but look at my tension. Like, this is where I'm at now, and look how tight that fabric is compared to what it was like when I started. I mean, visibly, it's very different. So I guess my tension has changed, which I've never noticed that with my crochet so much. I know it happens with my knitting, but I mean, okay, I know I lost stitches at the beginning, so I'm not going to hold it up at the beginning, but look at the width difference. Like, that's a lot of difference. So I've been making an effort to try to loosen up my tension, but I'm also doing increases just randomly to try to add in some stitches again. I'm not worried about it because it's going to be a cowl that you can loop around a couple times. So if there's differences in the width of this tube, I don't think it's going to be overly noticeable when I'm wearing it. It's just odd to me, but I'm really enjoying it, and I'm enjoying putting the beads in. You can see all the little beads. I had been putting the beads in with a little tiny crochet hook. However, the beads I'm using, it was a baggie of beads, you know, it had a whole bunch of different colored beads in it. And for some reason, some of the colors, the hole in the bead was large enough for my crochet hook. And it was mainly like the orange and yellow and clear beads and some of the pink beads. But then the other bead colors, like the blues and the reds and the rest of the pinks and some of the greens, I couldn't get the crochet hook through any of them. And I didn't want just all light colors in here, so I switched up from using the crochet hook to using a piece of monofilament. I'm not sure if you can see it, basically fishing line. You can see that. So basically what I do is when I come to the stitch that I want to put the bead on, I take my monofilament and I thread it through the stitch, and then I even up both ends. I think they actually make little tools that do this same thing, but I have a lot of monofilament, so. And then you take the bead and you just, you know, put the 2 ends through the bead, which it doesn't matter if I do this now because it's not going to do anything, but anyway, both ends through the bead, and then just pull this up, and this really easily pulls that yarn up through the bead. And then you just take your monofilament out of the stitch and put the stitch back on the hook and crochet it, and you've got a bead on your stitch. So that's what I've started to do. So I'm now able to use any of my beads, which is making me happier. So that's coming along. So I'm on the, let's see, 1, 2, 3. I'm on the 4th mini skein. I have 9? No, I don't remember. I'm not going to end up using them all. There's a couple colors that I definitely will not be using. All of these minis, all of the yarn in this is Legacy Fiber Artz yarn. I had 2 mini sets of their Steel Toes base and then a full skein. So I'm using those yarns. And this pink here that I'm doing these small bands of, that was the full skein. I'm just putting a little bit of that in between the mini skeins. This is really pretty colors. It's going to be such a random project, a random cowl, but it's enjoyable. So, and it's not a pattern. I'm just doing my own thing. I've described what I'm doing in the past couple of episodes. I think I chained like 100, 120. I don't remember how many stitches I chained on at the beginning. And I'm just alternating sections between single crochet and single crochet through the back loop, or that's at least what I'm calling it. I don't know if it has another official name in crochet speak because I'm not that knowledgeable about crochet, but it works for me. So that's how that's coming along. The other project I did take with me, and I do not think I touched at all, but I have worked on it some since you saw it last, so I will show you, is my Granny Stripes Cardi. And this pattern is, well, it's called Granny Cardi on here, but the pattern is actually called a Good Vintage Cardigan. Yeah, a Good Vintage Cardi. I don't know, it's kind of confusing. A Good Vintage Cardigan is what it's called on Ravelry anyway, and it's by Fran Morgan. I should know that by now. I've talked about it enough times. Anyway, so I think when I showed it to you last time, I commented how, you know, I had gone down a hook size because I felt like it was going to be too large. And then when I started working on it again recently, and I tried it on a bit, once I thought I was ready to split for the back and the 2 fronts, I realized it's not quite as big as I thought it was going to be, which that might be partially, you know, COVID weight that I did put a little on. However, all I did was I decided to go back up to the D. So right about here, I went back up to D. So it's really, it works out kind of like waist shaping, which is fine. And so then I'm using a D for the top sections, the back and the sides. So the pattern has you work one front, and then I think you work the back, and then you work the other front. Okay, but since I'm using all these different mini colors, and this is my Fiber Nymph Dye Works Mountain Tweed BFL that I'm doing in mini colors, and then just the plain vanilla for the alternate stripe, the alternating stripe. I want to make sure I'm keeping things in the same order, so I'm working on all 3 sections at the same time, and I'm just going across with one color. So, you know, you can see here the one front has 3 rows in it now, and the back has 3 rows in it, and then the front, this other front has 3 rows. So you can see here where the, you know, the armhole is being formed, and that just makes more sense to me to work on it that way. So whenever I do come, you know, I felt like if I did it the way the pattern was telling me to, and doing one whole piece at a time, the other piece, I ran the risk of either screwing my color order up, or could have a tension issue and have things not be the same. This way I feel like it'll be a little more consistent. So that's how I'm doing it. It's working for me, but I did take it with me in the car and then never touched it. So that is all that I've worked on since I talked to you last. Like I said, I feel like my crafting ennui has kind of continued, and I think a big part of it is just the fact that right now I don't need anything. You know, I don't have any craft, like anything that I'm crafting or making that I really need as far as in my wardrobe. I have things that I'd like to make, like, I'm enjoying all of these projects and I'll like them once they're done, but like they're not pressing. And I feel like maybe come fall, whenever I want to maybe make another sweater or something, because I could always use more sweaters in my wardrobe. But like, I don't need more socks. I don't need more hats. I could be making charity hats, and I might do that coming up. But I don't know. One thing I will be casting on soon is Joji Locatelli's, what's it called? Lounging top, or lounging tee, or whatever it was called, the lounging top that I bought the yarn for Emma to make her one, because I had cast one on for myself too, and then I didn't like it. Actually, I've cast it on a couple different times for myself and haven't liked it. I don't know what the deal is with that, but she wanted one, and so she's actually leaving to go on vacation this week, and so she won't be here for a while, so I want to get it started and see how much I can get done. And hopefully, she's got a birthday coming up in a few weeks, so maybe if I focus my attention on that, I'll be able to get that done for her birthday. That would be good. Because otherwise, I just don't have anything that I really, really want to be working on right now. It's such a strange place. It's not foreign because this has happened to me before, and it always cycles around, so I'm not worried about it, but I think the other part of it too is there's just so many other things that I do want to be spending my time on. Like, I want to be spending time down here in the garden. It's summer. That's something I can do in the summer that I can't do any other time of the year. So I want to be in the garden. There's other crafts, like other things that I want to be working on that have absolutely nothing to do with Fiber Artz. I have some wood burning projects that I'd like to be working on. So yeah, just a bunch of things, like other things that are unrelated, and they're not things that I'm going to fill this podcast with. So that's where I always feel a little bit weird, because you guys come here for the fiber content, and I'm sure other things too, but like, I can't do this podcast and not have any fibery things to show you, I feel like. Perhaps at some point I'll have some other, vlogs or something that I'll do with other crafts, but for right now, this is where I'm at, and I'm trying not to stress over it. But that's why there's not a whole lot else to show you, or not a whole lot else on my radar right now. But that's gonna just take us through the projects. For right now, we're going to talk a little bit about the Nature Mouse. So this whole year we're doing the 2021 Nature Make-Alongs, and I will just say, the fauna section, which ended June 30th, I still have one winner that I have not heard from. So MJ Nat, if you want to go back and watch the last episode, go to the timestamps and you can see where I announced it. You'll see the prizes, and get in touch with me and let me know you won. Send me your mailing information and tell me which prize you'd like. One of them's already been claimed. Which one was claimed? The driving PA. That one's been claimed, but the other two skins are still available, so let me know which one you'd like. If I don't hear from you before I record next time, I will get in touch with you, but hopefully you'll hear. So this July was the off month for the make along, so coming on Sunday, August 1st, we'll start the next 2-month period, August and September, and the theme for those 2 months will be sea, S-E-A, and that's anything water related. It doesn't have to specifically be in the sea, but it's water related, so it can be seas, oceans, lakes, ponds, rivers, streams. It could be a puddle in your driveway if there's something that is inspirational to you or reminds you of that. It's fine, as long as it's naturally occurring bodies of water. Not just rain, though. Rain would be more appropriate for sky, I think. But if the rain creates a puddle or makes a river rise, then that counts. And it can be things that live in the water, animals, fish, like muskrats, otters. Those aren't fish, I know, but animals that live in or around the water, plants that grow in the water, anything like that will be perfectly fine. If you can connect it somehow to those things, then it applies for these next 2 months. It was funny, I went to the group today in Ravelry, because I thought, oh, I really need to catch up on messages since I've been away, but it's like nobody has posted in that thread most of this month, and I guess it's because it's an off month, and that's fine. But hopefully our chatter will pick up again, because I enjoy getting to read it. I know I don't always get to catch up with it in a timely fashion, but I'm trying to be a little bit better about that. So anyway, you can start posting there what you're planning to work on for the C section of the C section. Oh my gosh, that sounded so weird. The C component of the make along. And then we can get started on August 1st. So let's see, anything else about that? I think that covers that. But while it is still July, we are doing self-care summer, which I totally was thrown off track with that from the very beginning, because that was right after my mom ended up coming up here unexpectedly for her cousin's funeral, and I did not get to do the posting that I was planning to do, and then I got derailed by suddenly having to plan this vacation and, you know, weird stuff. It's just been a weird month. However, it is still self-care summer, and it will still be self-care summer even beyond July, of course. And I would just love to know how your summer's going, and like, what are you doing? Like, what have you done special for yourself that's given yourself a little bit of a break? Yeah, just let me know. So either comment in the Ravelry group in that thread, or you can comment on the blog, on the Fiber Nymph Dye Works group blog, or Fiber Nymph Dye Works website blog. Both of those will be linked in the drop-down menu below in the show notes. Let's see, I would say, I feel like I want to share this story with you, and it is vacation related. The thing that has been most caring for me, self-care, would be our vacation, and not in an extravagant way, but just having been out in nature for 7 days straight was amazing. And I had this moment towards the end of this may be the day before, the second to last day of our trip or something, and I just was sitting there and I was thinking, you know, we have been outside all week. Like, we have been outside. Very rarely were we in a building for anything, because most of the campsites we were staying at were rustic, so there weren't like bathhouses or anything. And it was just like, how often do you get to do that? Like, unless you live outside on the regular, like, you don't, right? It was just so nice, and it felt so freeing to just be out in nature, on the water, in the woods. We saw so much wildlife that was just incredible. And it was just so good to be out there in that fresh air and just breathing, like literally breathing the fresh air, and figuratively, you know, just metaphorically, I guess would be the word, breathing in that open spaciousness. It was wonderful. And through that, it made me think about how, like, in my everyday life here at home, I can get so encumbered and tied down and engrossed in like stuff and things and taking care of things and cleaning things and organizing things and dealing with things, and how, like, on this trip we were living out of a boat. Like, we had our bag that had our food in it. We have wet bags, you know, or dry bags actually, that you roll them down and clip them, and they're rubber and they're theoretically watertight. Some of ours aren't quite so watertight at this point in their lives, but you know, our food was in one, our clothes were in another, our tent stuff and wet stuff was in another, you know, and then we have a box that we use as our kitchen box that seals. And so we were carting all of that stuff in and out of the boat, but like, in the grand scheme of things, like, that's not a lot of stuff. But we were able to function, you know, just fine. And I marvel at that every time we take a trip like this, how, like, it doesn't take much to be able to survive and enjoy life. Not just survive, but like thrive. And so that always puts me in like a minimizing mindset. Like, I want to come home and just like get rid of all of my extra stuff that I don't really need, you know, because after a while it sometimes feels like the stuff owns you, because you have to take care of it, you have to clean it, you have to find a place for it. You know what I mean? I don't know. I know what I mean. Hopefully you understand what I mean. And this is just sort of this ongoing thing for me. And I would say over the past year, this has been kind of a slow burn thing for me. It's like I need to pull in and minimize, and not minimize for the sake of minimizing, but like get rid of things that are extraneous and that really don't need to be in my life. And part of that, I think, is my age. You know, I'm getting older. I don't want to leave my children a whole bunch of crap to have to deal with. You know, I've had that experience with cleaning out people's homes after they pass away, and it's like, oh my gosh, you know, like why did they keep all, like my dad kept everything, and like I don't want to do that to people. I want to have what I need now and pass on other things that other people can use. So that's like something I came home with. It was very, it felt good to come home with that mindset. And also just to think about like my workflow and what I do, and I'm trying to think of the right words to put this in. This has been something too that over the last year or so, I would say I've felt this transition coming. Like I knew there was something changing. I didn't know what it was, and I, for once in my life, didn't like push it, you know? Like I just thought, okay, it'll happen. Whatever is meant to happen is going to happen, and I'll know when it's time to make a change. I'll know if there's something that I'm doing that I maybe need to rethink. And there are things like that. And so hopefully in the coming months, as I work through this, I'll be able to share more with you, because I don't even have the details worked out. I mean, I'm still dyeing yarn. So like, I know every time I say something like this, people are like, oh my gosh, are you going to still dye yarn? Yes, I'm still dyeing yarn. It's what I do for my living. But there are other aspects of what I do in my business that, you know, I've been doing this for 10 years. So it's time that I feel like it's the right time for me to rethink some things and maybe just do things a little bit differently. You know, pass over some of the things that I've done that maybe aren't as beneficial at this point, and add in some new things that might fit better with where I am at this point in my life. Because I talked last time too about the fact that, you know, my husband's going to be retiring next year, and that's going to change both of our lives, right? It's not just him retiring, like it's going to affect both of us and how our lives function. And so I want to be able to flow with that. And that's where I'm at right now. So all of that was stuff that just kept coming through my mind while we were away, and you know, I was reflecting on it a lot, and for me that was very good, and it felt affirming and good. That's the way I can put it for now. So anyway, I feel like that was a lot of babbling. Hopefully it made some sense to you, but that's where I'm at with that. And that's what I came away with from my vacation, in my self-care moments of being out in nature. That's everything for 90%. I'm gonna hop into shop news real quickly. As I stated at the top of the episode, I did send out a newsletter before I went away on vacation, and I did say, hey, save the date. There's gonna be a shop update the Saturday after I get back from my trip. There's not going to be. I need to push it back another week. I did do dyeing for this update before I left, but I didn't get quite as much done as I thought I would, because again, I always overthink what I can get done, and it just didn't happen. So I'm going to be kind to myself and give myself another week to get the update, the summer colorways update, ready. So that will be next Saturday, which is August 7th, and that will be 10 a.m. Eastern. So you can be looking for that. A newsletter will go out about that prior to the update. But this Friday, so today's Wednesday, so in 2 days, I am going to be doing just a small update of goodie bags, because I'm working on doing inventory right now of my in-stock stuff. And so every time I do inventory, I end up pulling some things and making goodie bags. So that's what I'm going to do. I don't know how many there will be. I mean, it won't be unlimited for sure, but there will be some self-striping goodie bags. There will be some variegated. There will be a bunch of things. So you can check the shop closer to Friday. I would say probably by Friday morning, I'll have the information up about those. And you know, my goodie bags are always discounted over the retail value of what's in them. And they'll all be like regular shop inventory as opposed to like oopsie skeins or, you know, Dyer's Secret Stash kind of stuff. I mean, if there is any of that, I'll label it as such, but for the most part, it should be just regular inventory that I'm wanting to move out. So I'm going to put it in goodie bag form. So that will be this Friday. Those will become live at 5 p.m. Eastern, which is July 30th at 5 p.m. Eastern. So that's what's coming up. The other thing I want to give you the heads up about is I am going to offer another club this year. I wasn't sure if I was going to do another one this year or not, but I decided I really want to. And this one is going to be called the Encore Yarn and Fiber Club. Let me explain. I've done so many clubs over these past 10 years, and some of them have been really, really popular. And so rather than having a club that has a specific theme this time, I'm going to do an encore round. There will be 3 different shipments, and each shipment will be an encore round from one of my previous clubs. And the 3 clubs that there will be encore shipments for in this club will be my Happy Hour Club, which all of the yarns were based on adult beverages. So there will be an adult beverage shipment for the Happy Hour Encore. There will be a Tea for 2 Encore shipment, and that was pretty self-explanatory. They were all based around different teas and tea blends. So that will be one. And then the third one will be the Just Desserts Club, and those were all based on desserts. So I'm looking forward to doing this. Maybe you didn't get to take part in any of those 3 clubs. Well, here's your opportunity to sign up and get 1 shipment of each of those themes. I'm going to be offering this the same way I did the holiday mini sets, the winter magical sets this year. Instead of doing a sign up questionnaire form like I have done in the past, these are going to just be directly available to sign up through the shop. So I will have shop listings for these. I need to keep them limited though in number, so the cutoff is probably going to be right around 30 once I sell 30 of the club shipments or 30 of the club memberships. I'll shut down the listings, but otherwise they're going to be open, like there's going to be no limit on the individual options. There will be multiple options, there will be yarn, all of the yarns will be self-striping. The fibers will be variegated for each of these. Same colorway, just 2 different versions, depending on if you get yarn or fiber. There will be some extras involved. The Happy Hour Club came with stitch markers. There will be a stitch marker component for that one. The Tea for 2 came with 2 servings of tea related to the colorway. And then the Just Desserts Club came with a recipe for the dessert that was the inspiration. So that will all be the same. I will be putting information up both in the Fiber Nymph Dye Works website on the blog. There will be a post about this, as well as in the Ravelry group. I will put a post up also with all of the details for the club. So that's coming. Look for that probably in the next week. I'll send information out about this in the newsletter, as well as putting it up on social media. So you should know all about it. I'm planning to make those listings, the sign up listings, go live on Monday, August 8th, 9th. Hang on. Yeah, Monday, August 9th at 9 a.m. Eastern. I will let you know, this last club that I did sold out within, it was under 24 hours. The club filled up. I don't know if this one will or not, but just so you know, if you missed out on my last club that I did, which was the Backyard Birdwatchers Club, I didn't add that as one of the encores just because that one just finished, so maybe I'll do an encore for that some other time. But yeah, that one sold out really, really fast. So, you know, if you're interested in the club, you know, put that on your calendar and be ready to jump on it. So, and if you have any questions, you can always email me, fibernymph@gmail.com, and ask, and I'll be happy to offer any clarification that I can. Okay, I think that's everything for the shop right now. So that just leaves us with what's bringing me joy this week. Well, my garden is definitely bringing me joy. Like I said, I have some pictures. I'll either maybe put them in here or I'll add them at the end of the podcast, however it works best when I'm editing. But the sunflowers are beautiful. The zinnias, there's also zinnias back here. I don't know if you can see them. Yeah, like right here, that's a whole bunch of zinnias. They're really pretty. I haven't cut any to take in the house this year, though. I'm just kind of leaving them in the garden and looking at them when I'm down here. Maybe I'll cut some today, though. What else? Lettuce. We've gotten a lot of lettuce. The lettuce is starting to bolt, so we won't be eating this lettuce much longer because it starts to get bitter. But I'll probably pull it out and then wait a few weeks and plant some more later towards the end of August to have some fall lettuce. The peas have tons of pods on them, but they're still small. The peas are small, so not ready to pick those yet. Same with the tomatoes. There's tons of tomatoes, but they're all green. It does look like they're all turning out to be cherry tomatoes, which is fine. I love cherry tomatoes. Our herbs are just going crazy. Emma's been harvesting herbs and drying them, and I've been using them fresh in cooking and in salads and in other things that we've been making. My spaghetti squash, they are taking over this bottom corner of the garden. What else? I think that's mostly everything. We have a lot of herbs in the garden this year, so sorry. I got so many mosquito bites on the vacation. So like every time I feel something touch me, I'm like, oh, please don't be a mosquito. Anyway, so yeah, the garden is definitely bringing me joy. Emma and I are also finally going to start using our composter. Can you see? Yeah, there's the composter. I don't know what our problem's been that we haven't started, but we're doing that today. We're gonna like throw the initial stuff in it and get the process started. So stay tuned for composting news. What else? Vacation. Vacation was wonderful. As I said, we went up to Michigan and we paddled the Osable River from Grayling, Michigan, out to the end of it, which ends in Oscoda and empties into the Lake Huron. It was just lovely. It's the first part of it down. There's 6 dams on this river, and the first one is Mio. And so we were portaging all these dams. But when you leave Grayling and go to Mio, the river's fairly swift. Like the flow is pretty fast. So we made really good time those first couple of days. We had long days, mileage-wise, but our time per hour or per mile, miles per hour was higher than the rest of the river. But then you portage each of the dams, which means you take everything out of your canoe and you carry it over around the dam. They have specific portage spots where you can pull up and take your stuff out, take your boat out, carry everything down around, then get back in. Some of them were nicer than others, but it was fine. But that slows you down. It took us anywhere from 15 minutes to a half hour to do most of the portages, depending on the situation. We camped, like I said, the first 2 nights we camped at, the first one was a rustic campsite. The second one was at an actual campground that did have a bathhouse. It was an odd campground, though. It was okay, but they have county parks. It was in a county park. It was okay. Anyway, it was not easy access, though, with the canoe. We had to walk up 49 steps. Bill portaged the canoe up 49 steps to the campground. Crazy. And then beyond Mio, then we were in rustic campsites the rest of the time, which were very nice. They were all 4 of them were very scenic and beautiful, and you were removed. You weren't on top of other people. And, you could look out at the river and we saw bald eagles, like several bald eagles. And at the one campsite, we were sitting there and this bald eagle was swooping around and he came down to the river. It was like amazing. I mean, we get bald eagles around here occasionally that we'll see them, but not like that. It's lovely. Bald eagles, there were tons of herons, egrets, swans, lots of belted kingfisher, which we don't have those around here that I know of. So they were I didn't really get good pictures of those either because they move really fast. Then there were, creatures in the rivers. There were turtles. We saw mink, otters. I think we saw one muskrat. at least one beaver, and then we saw signs of beavers other places. We didn't see any snakes. I was kind of surprised. What else? Deer along the river. I'm trying to think if there's, loons. On some of the lakes, there were loons on the lakes, and actually in the river as well. No, not really on the river. Loons Lake Stillwater. Anyway, we saw loons. Love listening to loons. Anyway, it was fun. So many things, and just like I said, just being in the moment. You know, that was kind of another thing I brought home with me, was that mindset of just be in the moment. Because so often, I don't know about you, but I get caught up with like, okay, this is going on now, but like, oh my gosh, this is happening tomorrow, or this is happening later, and oh my gosh, what if this goes wrong, or what if something happens to so-and-so, or, you know, like you worry, like Emma's going on vacation, like she's going by herself, oh my gosh, like what if something happens? It's like, no, like, is everything okay right now, in this moment? Yes, everything is fine. Be in this moment, do not worry down the road yet. Like, if something happens, take the time then to worry about it. But like, in this moment, if everything's fine, then just be there. I've been trying to remind myself to do that. So anyway, for what that's worth, maybe that'll be an encouragement to somebody. It's very hard. It's very hard because I feel like a lot of us were brought up to project negativity into the future, and like, that's horrible. Like, nobody needs that. And I catch Bill doing that a lot. You know, he'll say something like, well, you know, this worked out, but watch, when we turn around, it'll be, I'm like, stop putting that out there. You know. And so I'm trying to catch myself and stop myself from doing that too. I remember listening to Brene Brown, just a motivational, inspirational speaker would be how I would classify her. But anyway, she was telling, and maybe it was a book, an audio book I was listening to her of. But anyway, she told this story about how, okay, so picture this, you know, there's a family at the holidays driving in the car, and it's snowing and beautiful, and they're coming home from being at their, you know, grandparents' house, and they're singing Christmas carols, and, you know, they're driving along, and then she stops and she's like, okay, and then what happens? And she said, you know, so many people, the next thing that happens is there's a catastrophic wreck because they hit ice and they die or something. You know, like, she's like, we're conditioned to think these negative things, to expect the worst. And I cannot remember what she said after that, because obviously that was not her point. Her point was like, don't do that. But I'm sure she said it much better than don't do that. But like, what does that get us? All that gets us is stress and anxiety and, you know, this negative viewpoint. Like, quit expecting the best. Like, expect good things, expect positive things, and then you might be more likely to see those things because they're usually there. You know, it's not the huge, dire, horrible things that usually happen. Things may not always go perfectly, but like, it's very rare that like the worst case scenario happens all the time. So be in the moment, take stock. Like, I'm doing that throughout my day. Like, is everything okay right this minute? Yes. I don't have to be stressed. Anyway, all right, I'm done. Like I said, I'm going to put in vacation pictures here for you guys to see. They're not going to be, well, they'll be in chronological order, but like, yeah, I don't know if I'll have time to put labels in or not. I'll try, but hopefully you'll at least enjoy the scenes. And also, like I said, I'll try to put garden pictures in, either back when I was talking about the garden, although whatever I was talking about is probably not what the picture will be, or I'll put them after the vacation pictures. One way or another, you're gonna see pictures. So that's it. Like I said, sign up for the newsletter. If you're not on my newsletter list already, I only send out like maybe one a week on average. You know, I don't send out a ton of newsletters. There might be 2 in 1 week and then not another one for a month. But anyway, you can do that from my website, which is fibernymphdyworks.com. There's a link right at the top in the menu bar to click on for the newsletter, or you can go to the very bottom of the page and there's a newsletter sign up down there. That's the best place to be sure that you're going to get any pertinent information about upcoming events in your inbox so you won't miss them. Otherwise, you can check Instagram at FiberNymphDyeWorks, is the account there. I have a Fiber Nymph Dye Works group on Facebook, which is usually just the same information that's on Instagram, but if you don't use Instagram and you do use Facebook, it's there. And yeah, those are the main places that you can stay up to date about things in between the podcasts. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to either leave them in the comments here, or if you definitely want an answer from me in a timely fashion, email me at fibernymph@gmail.com. And I usually don't say this, but I will say it because I'm trying to be better about it. If you enjoy this podcast, please click the like and click like on this video, and you can subscribe. Click the subscribe button, and then I'll pop up in your feed anytime I do post a new episode, so you don't have to just be looking for it. It will actually come up. I'm not really huge into numbers and like subscription numbers and how many subscribers I have, but you know, it's just an easy way to keep track of the podcasts that you like for your benefit. So anyway, and also I talked about the ads on the video. You probably are seeing ads. I don't know if you are, but you should be able to skip them if you are seeing them, because I did go through that whole process of signing up. So the content is monetized on this YouTube station now. I don't expect to get a whole lot from it, and that's fine. That's not why I did it. I did it so that I would have that control over saying where the ads are going to go and that they can be skipped. So, got to do what you got to do, because YouTube is going to do what they want to do if I don't. So, anyway, that's it. I will talk to you again probably in a week or two, since I'm doing this one so late in the month. I'll probably give it at least another week, but I'll talk to you again soon. I hope you're all well. Take care. Bye.